Hello, friends. Howdy doo-dah. I'm gonna give it a couple seconds because it takes people just a little bit to get in here. Oh, hello, I'm here. What do we notice today? Anybody? Look who's joined us. Oh, it's lower here. Doo-dee-doo-doo. Yay! Finally, right? Took me long enough. Actually, I had somebody the other day that misunderstood when I said that I was finishing painting. I did not paint this. I painted the frame very poorly. If you breathe on it, it's probably going to chip. That is Nikola Tesla. Hi guys, thank you. Oh yeah, and my shirt. Funny story about this shirt. I actually got it on Amazon. I was looking for a Tesla shirt and I just happened to find this one. I thought it was awesome because it looks like a metal band shirt, but it's Tesla. And so I bought it on Amazon and I get this package. The ladies that come to my house, I live like out in the middle of nowhere, so my mail is basically delivered on donkey. We don't have like an official package deliverer, so we have a couple ladies that are, I think they're volunteers, and it's a mom and a daughter, and they do it out of their van, and it's awesome. But anyway, so I've gotten to know them, and they were like ringing the doorbell. They never do that. They usually just ding dong and then leave the package because I never come to the door. But they like rang the doorbell a few times, and then she hands me this package, and she was like, oh, thank goodness, I didn't want to leave, and it has very specific instructions not to leave it, and blah, blah, blah. And I get the package and it's fully in Russian. I was like afraid to open it. I had no idea what was in it because it didn't register to me that it was the t-shirt that I bought on Amazon. But anyway, those dang Russians. Did anybody, just to start things off, this isn't in my like topics, but I just wanted to bring this up before I forget. Did anybody see Justin Bieber's Instagram over the last couple days? It is horrifying. He has this new single out, I guess, or it's coming out, called Yummy. I watched a bit of the video. He's got pink hair and he's wearing a pink sweatshirt, and it's like kind of food related, but just like lots of weird symbolism and stuff like that. And so he has uploaded something like 13, just like one after the other since yesterday, pictures of babies with the hashtag yummy. And it's very strange and really gross. And I was horrified when I saw it. People were sending it to me. And when I went to go check it out, I was actually a little relieved to see some of there were a lot of comments that were kind of pushing back on it and being like, either questioning or just being downright saying this is disgusting. And then there were a lot of our favorite hashtags were kind of thrown in there. So that might be a really good thing for a lot of people that are fans of Justin Bieber, I guess, to wake up on. They're going to go to these pictures and they're going to be like, what are all these baby pictures about? And then they're going to go into the comments and see a bunch of people saying, research this and you'll understand. So yeah, it's really gross and I don't understand it. I don't understand how, especially as a person, first of all, it's not your child. It's neat. Like there's just something borderline super creepy about just sharing a bunch of pictures of other people's children when you are not in the picture with them or you don't have a child in the picture with them. So yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to throw that in. So I wanted to get into the headlines, or just a few things, or a couple things. I definitely want to talk about the Ricky Gervais monologue from the Golden Globes the other night. That was awesome. And I had a couple other just interesting things. Yeah, that is a good point. We don't know. One can kind of imagine that possibly Justin Bieber was a victim of this stuff himself. He's got a lot of those symbolic you know, symbolic things he posts. Like even some of the children in the pictures were wearing things like rabbit ears and things like that. It reminds me a lot of Macaulay Culkin. And Macaulay Culkin is one of those guys who, well, first of all, he's come out and talked about how he was a victim of this when he was a child, and you know, through the industry, and he has given interviews where he talks about specifically what happened to him. But he's one of those people that I really think they had him very controlled. I know that I've heard that one of the ways that they control you is through drug usage, and I've even heard people talking about how they got off of drugs and had somebody literally come into their home or apartment and shoot them up again, like once they were trying to get clean, to make sure that they were not getting off of the drugs. Macaulay Culkin had pictures where he looked like he was on death's door from years ago, and then all of a sudden he had this remarkable he just started to look healthy and like himself again, and you know, it was very hopeful. And he was speaking out on a lot of this stuff. He gave an interview in, I believe it was France, where he talks about all of this stuff, and you can tell he like wants to talk about it, but then again, he's got a pizza themed band and a pizza themed podcast, and his Instagram is littered with symbolism, pizza and bunny rabbit ears and all of this stuff. And then he also had that thing where he tweeted about, what's the guy's name that played, you know, the guy that played that guy from Queen, Malik something, or Malik something, where he says, oh, Remy Malik, isn't that his name? Remy Malik eats babies, not kidding, or something like that. There, I said it, I think is what he said. So there's almost, you get this kind of notion that he's trying to break through this, but I don't think that's a very easy thing to do. There's somebody that I follow on Instagram who talks about this openly, and the struggle of trying to come out of the mind control. And you can almost see this person go back and forth between being super coherent and super clear, and then all of a sudden there are days where they post things and you're just like, oh no, it doesn't look like they're breaking free. So, but that is a good point. We don't know if he was a victim of this, and again, we're gonna have to find, I think, a lot of clemency for people who were victims, but that doesn't mean that we forgive them for doing the same thing, because I think deep down everybody has a moral barometer, and that everybody knows right from wrong, and you just because you're a victim of it doesn't give you the excuse to do it. So that said, moving on. So we know that there was a terrorist killed in an airstrike by our guys this last week. I'm not going to go into that a whole ton because it's everywhere and you guys know. I do kind of want to talk about it just a little bit. I've had people reach out to me and ask me, people, again, very confused, almost in a panic. They're listening to the fear-mongering that's going on in the mainstream media, and it's reminding me a lot of what was going on in North Korea, what was going on in Russia, and how many times are these people going to, in the media, going to tell us that this president is on the verge of taking us into World War III. When it doesn't happen, at some point people are going to start waking up to the fact that they are lying to us, or at least, you know, using our emotions against us. And so maybe that is part of the plan. I will say that the whole Middle East and all of that is a bag of cats that I'm not totally clear on. I don't feel comfortable talking about all of the different nuances of what is going on over there. Again, I've only been paying attention for a couple years. So before that, I was just listening to whatever the mainstream media was telling me, and I was just, you know, like, oh, okay, that sounds good. And I'll be scared when they tell me to be scared, and I'll think everything's fine when they tell me that everything's fine. But what I can say is that one thing I am sure about is that the way to lead people that want you dead, or the way to handle people that want you dead, these are not rational people. What we had before with Obama was a president who would literally tell them how far they could advance before he would do something, and that was literally probably as far as they wanted to go. They knew that they had him, and we were led to believe that, oh, we're so much safer when our president plays nice and bows to these people and you know, goes and has dinner with them, invites them to the White House. But the truth of the matter is there are some people in this world that see the world as eat or be eaten, and you, by showing them kindness, it is wasted on them. They see your kindness as weakness. They see your kindness as, okay, I'm going to turn around, I can eat this person now. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. That's not the way it is with your average human being. Most people, you will get a long way with kindness and respect. But these people chant death to America. These people want us dead. And I think that it is a better strategy to have a man in place in the presidency that they think is an absolute madman, that they think is a trigger-happy a-hole that is waiting, just like, give me a reason to blow you up. Yes, that doesn't look great to the rest of the world, but the fact of the matter is, those people don't really matter. Like, the good, kind people of the universe, yeah, it sucks that they look at our president and they think that he's this, you know, this whack job, but they're not trying to blow us up. The worst that's going to happen is they're going to look down their nose at us. And the people that we really have to worry about are the people that want us dead, that do not want to meet us in the middle, that don't want to get along with us. And so he is showing that he is a tough president. He's showing that there's a line you don't cross. And it's a very different strategy, yes, than the president that we had before. But you know, instead of giving pellets of cash in the dead of night, he is sending missiles. So I also do believe, because of what I've seen with Q, with the whole thing that happened with North Korea and Kim Jong-un, we knew that that summit that happened publicly actually happened months prior, privately, I think in November. But then that's the public summit they had was to catch everybody up. But it's almost like they're not going to show us what's going on until those things are already taken care of. So we had the media screaming that he was going to pull us into World War III, that North Korea is going to nuke us. You know, how did that turn out? It turned out wonderfully. He was the first president to step foot, you know, in that demilitarized zone. So, you know, just trust it. I mean, either way, there's nothing we can do about it at this point, but I'm seeing a pattern, and I am trusting that pattern. And I do believe that there is a possibility that peace has been brokered behind the scenes, and that some of these things are playing out. Now we've got Iraq, that is, they're saying that they want us to leave. We're going to get into more of that later, but they're saying that they want our troops out of the area. It's like, okay, good. That's a win-win. And if Trump would have just pulled them out, they would have called him all kinds of names. He would have had to go through Congress. It would have, you know, this is kind of like, if he wasn't meaning to do this, he sure is lucky. So thank you guys. Thank you. So, okay. Then we had, again, New York Times put out an article about this and called this terrorist, a man that has had hand in over 600 deaths of our people. He had a part in planning Benghazi, and New York Times published a piece where they called him a national war hero. I put an article down below too about, says former President Barack Obama granted amnesty to Iranian General Qasem Soleimani as a part of a, quote, historic Iran deal back in 2015. Again, he was one of the planners of Benghazi, and a lot of people giving Trump crap for launching a missile on this guy, which, by the way, if I do not like war in any way, shape, or form, but if we've got to go to war, like, that's kind of the way to do it. There were no, you know, like, no civilian loss on either side. You just get them and get out, you know. Our guys weren't, you know, in danger as far as I know. They're able to do it from a remote area. And remember that Obama launched like 2,800 missiles in Syria without congressional approval. And nobody said butt kiss about that. Then we had this letter that got leaked. This is kind of funny, but so this letter leaked, and it was basically a letter outlining that we were pulling out from Iraq. And it says, U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper has been prompted to deny that U.S. troops are withdrawing from Iraq after a letter from an American general suggested such. The document, whose authenticity has been confirmed, stated that the U.S. would be, quote, repositioning forces in the coming days and weeks. Pentagon Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley said yesterday, quote, the letter is a draft. It was a mistake. It was unsigned. It should have never been released. Poorly worded, implies withdrawal. That is not what is happening. So this was kind of interesting because I was seeing people that are kind of in the know talk about how this is not how things get done. That piece of paper wouldn't have just been floating around. And so the fact that this leaked the way that it did with no signatures and, you know, poorly worded, that wouldn't happen. So people were saying, like, there's got to be more to this than meets the eye. But then right after that, Defense Secretary Esper's chief of staff resigns. So I wonder if we found a leaker. It says Eric Tuning, the chief of staff to Defense Secretary Mark Esper, is resigning and will be leaving his post at the end of January, the Defense Department announced Monday. Tuning has been in his role since January 2019. After starting with the department in October 2017 as Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Industrial Policy, he now plans on returning to the private sector. Or maybe jail, I don't know. That's just speculation. I thought it was funny that they were right on top of each other. We got the news of this leak from within the Department of the Defense Department, and then all of a sudden this guy's leaving from there. So we shall see. Thank you guys. Thank you. Yes, it's my birthday. I put a link to a tweet that has 4 different pictures, and then if you go to the tweet, the first tweet underneath it, the first response to it should also be a video of this, and it's this weird red rod that was seen over Iraq, I believe the day after Soleimani was killed, and it's like this weird red, it looks like a red lightsaber, and yeah, it's really interesting. Some people were saying that it looked like that picture that was caught off of Whidbey Island, when was it, 2 years ago or whatever it was, that was definitely a missile. And this is like red, and you can see the video, it's just staying there. It looks like a laser or something like that. So I put that in there. Thanks. Okay, so I want to talk about Ricky Gervais. Todd, thank you so much. Thank you very much. So Ricky Gervais will maybe go down in history, will definitely go down in history as giving the world's greatest Golden Globe opening monologue, because the Golden Globes probably aren't going to be around much longer. So he already wins. And I think I saw, I have an article below that's talking about how the Golden Globes have tanked 15%, and that Paul from Montana, thank you so much, that they're, you know, it's early ratings for them to tell, but so far they're on track to have the smallest numbers since 2012. I am telling you, this is a huge sign of the Great Awakening, if you want to call it that. What is going to happen when people actually wake up? I will tell you, they will be less and less interested in this fabricated entertainment that we have been, like, you know, mouth breathing over for our entire lives. Suddenly, you know, I am a testament to that. I used to watch Real Housewives every day without fail. I could not care less about any of those broads now. And it's just the natural, once you start finding out what's going on, not only are you less interested in this kind of sucrose that they're feeding us through the entertainment, but also you start wondering if some of these people are guilty of these awful things that you've been learning about, and it will ruin everything for you. But it's a beautiful ruining, because I wouldn't trade it. I would much rather read books and talk to people that I actually like than just completely escape. There's a reason that they say that television and movies are an escape. That's exactly what they were designed to be. They are to keep us busy. They are to keep us occupied. They are to keep us focusing on things that do not matter and they're also there to brainwash us. So the less we watch, the better. And nobody wants to sit and listen to a bunch of pompous a-holes give us lectures about things that they have absolutely no idea about just because they can cry on cue. So that was one of the things that Ricky Gervais had said in his brilliant speech. If you haven't watched it, I put a link below to a tweet that has the entire monologue. I know there were a couple other gems throughout the night, but basically in his opening monologue, he mentions Jeffrey Epstein. He basically says, I know you don't groan, I know you're all friends with him. Then he says something like, yeah, I bet you had to find your own way onto the airplane, or something to that effect. Or I don't know if he was saying you had to find your own way here because you couldn't use his airplane, or if he was alluding to the fact that we know more of you were there than are even on the flight records or whatever. But if you look at the responses in the audience, they are very telling. These people don't think this is funny. And in fact, another thing I noticed, and I don't know if, I know they're live, but they have to be delayed at least a little bit to, so that they can bleep things out, which they were doing with him. But you were hearing cheers and applause, and then they would cut to the audience, and it was like straight faces and then like you'd see 3 people clapping. So I'm almost wondering if they put a laugh track in and that nobody was laughing, or if maybe there were like people up in the rafters that we couldn't see that were like real people that thought it was hysterical. But it was hysterical. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of Ricky Gervais at all. I like The Office. Doesn't he have something to do with The Office? I really don't even know. I've seen a couple of his tweets before and been like, oh, that guy's funny, but I'm a huge fan now. That took major balls. It was hysterical. It was everything that in my wildest fantasies, like when I'm going to bed at night and I just like am picturing whatever I want to picture in the world, whatever I want to be, the superhero I want to be, that's the kind of superhero I want to be. I would love to be that funny, that poignant, in front of all those people and be like, yeah, I don't care. And the world is watching. So I think that the circulating video of the viral monologue, or the monologue, was seen by way more people than even watched the Golden Globes. So that should tell you something right there. Another thing in his speech was he said something to the effect of like, oh, you guys are all afraid of Ronan Farrow now. And I only knew a little bit about that, but I ended up looking up, like right as I looked it up, I ended up coming across an article that had literally just been published. So I was like, oh, I was meant to look this up right now. I have it linked below. Oh, thank you so much. Capricorns rock. Tomorrow is my birthday. Get something nice. You deserve it. Thank you so much. That is very generous of you. It's funny. I met one person recently that has my same birthday, but my entire life I've never known anybody that had my birthday other than Nicolas Cage. And but I've known a lot of people that were like 8 and 9 or 5s, but I've never known a 7th. But anyway, no teams here. They're all good birthdays. Anyway, Ronan Farrow, I put an article below that is really interesting about the timeline. So Ronan Farrow had a massive part to play in the takedown of Harvey Weinstein. And this is kind of a timeline of what happened with that, with him trying to tell the story. He was working for NBC, and NBC was trying to kill this story. That's really the only way that I can put it. And not only was, at first they were backing him on it, but when push came to shove, they wanted to kill the story. They said, oh, it's not ready or whatever. But weeks later, he posted it with, what was it, The New Yorker? Anyway, so the story obviously was ready and people needed to see it. I believe they even got a, what's that, the award you get for a Pulitzer. They got a Pulitzer for it. So it was obviously a story that was necessary and needed to be told. But a couple interesting things from the article. Ronan talks about how when he was investigating all of this and interviewing these alleged victims, or we can just call them victims now because we're pretty, that Harvey Weinstein was having him surveilled by Black Cube. Jeff, thank you so much. So Black Cube is an Israeli surveillance company. They are made up of like ex-Mossad and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And interestingly enough, Black Cube, we also know, is highly symbolic. It's symbolic of the cult of Saturn and a bunch of other things. Rob, do you guys have a video on the symbolism of black cubes, right? Or is it in something else? That's where I learned about black cubes. And when I saw that, it just jumped off the page with me, at me, because what a name. That can't be, that can't be a coincidence. So, and then also I linked, did I remember to link that? I hope I did. Let me just look really fast. There was another article. Yep. There was another article from 2017 that talks about how he also had black cubes surveilling the women that were accusing him. And one of their tasks was to literally compile psychological profiles on these women and like dig up dirt from their past. So it is a very good example of exactly how these elite people have been getting away with these things. And now we can see exactly how this works, this intimidation. They had some guy that worked for Hillary Clinton, they had him email Ronan Farrow, basically telling him to like, cut it out. And these people will, you know, they're very powerful. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of connections. And there were so many people that were either victims of his or knew that that he was victimizing women. It has now been called, and you know, the open secret of Hollywood. Everybody knew that this was going on. There was video footage of Courtney Love years and years ago, before any of this broke, where they have her on the red carpet and they say, you know, what's something that what's a piece of advice that you would give for an up and coming, you know, Hollywood girl or whatever? And she said, don't go up to Harvey Weinstein's hotel room at 2 a.m. or something like that. She was talking about, you know, it was just like this known thing. So it's not hard for us to believe, or at least it shouldn't be, that people can get away with literal murder, but all kinds of things, even up to murder and equal to murder, when they are rich and powerful. And so that is once you accept that, a lot of other things become a lot easier. And then also another little piece of Harvey Weinstein news. Was it today that he had his Manhattan sex assault trial? He got charged with another 4 counts from Los Angeles. So just hours after he entered a Manhattan courtroom where he will stand trial for sexual assault, Harvey Weinstein was charged with 4 more counts of rape and sexual battery in Los Angeles. So I don't know if you guys have seen the video of him. Like now he has a walker. He certainly was not that frail when he was forcing himself upon these women. We have new Epstein photos that just came out, warning they are graphic, but very interesting in that you can see this deep, dark line across his neck, and it's supposed to be from a sheet, and then they've got pictures that are supposed to be, you know, of the room with the sheets and the pictures of nooses, and I think there were 2 nooses. There are just a lot of things going on in those pictures. And I don't know if he's here right now, Enoch from on Twitter, that's what he goes by, found 2 pictures of one from one publication, one from another publication. It's the same photo of the inside of his jail cell. And there is a piece of rope that looks completely different in one than it does in the other. It looks like it's been photoshopped. And it reminds me of the Ghislaine Maxwell, what was that, the New York Post? I don't remember publications, I don't care. But it was the same publication, I believe. So it was weird that you had those stage photos that were obviously photoshopped in that, and then this picture, I don't know which one is photoshopped, but one of them is. I will see if I can put that in my links later. We had, I don't think we talked about this. No, this happened since my last live. Ted Nugent posted on Facebook a thing about Q. And at first everyone was like all excited because it looked like he was pro Q. And then immediately he just slammed Q right in the next, you know, he commented on his own post or something like that. But the thing is that, okay, if you're a very high level celebrity and you, oh, Ice-T, was it Ice-T? Yeah, Ice-T also put out a meme that had the Q behind it. I think we talked about that one. He had the quote on it and the giant Q, and everybody was giving him hell, saying, how dare you, you know, be a Q supporter. He's like, I didn't know it was a Q thing, I just like the quote. But every time something like that happens, it doesn't matter if they sit there and talk for 6 hours about how Q is illegitimate and the dumbest thing they've ever heard in their life and blah, blah, blah. There are a few key things that they say in there even when they're slandering that are gonna wake people up, or gonna be like interesting to people and have them go and look into it for themselves, which is what we want anyway. It's actually kind of a good thing, I think, come to think of it, to not have big celebrities out there right now advocating for Q and saying that they believe in Q, because you might have some of those people that would just blindly follow or blindly believe, not do any of the research, not really understand it, but just want to be cool and believe the cool thing. That could be why maybe Joe M left. That's just another thought that just came out of my brain just now, but it makes sense. You know, he was getting so big. People obviously really trusted him on Twitter and looked to him for his take on everything, and people were starting to treat him kind of like a celebrity, and I wonder if that's part of the reason that he bowed out when he did. But anyway, nonetheless, Ted Nugent, thanks for the advertising. I put a link below to a video of the Pope slapping a woman's hand. He is a real POS. I don't know. I can't help it. I look at that man and I just think he just looks like the most evil thing on the planet. And I don't know if I'm just biased. I don't know if I'm like, I don't know, but he just, and then we get videos of him slapping people. So I kind of feel like I get a little confirmation bias with that, but whatever. I also put a couple, full disclosure, I put about 5 links below to Project Looking Glass. I have only watched one of them, so I don't know what's in. I just have been sent these by people. I haven't had the time to watch all of them, but I know that a lot of you guys are super into Project Looking Glass. The people that sent them to me, I trust, but I don't necessarily know what's in them or if they would advocate for everything that's in them. The first one, the first link under those Project Looking Glass videos, I did watch, and it was really good, and it kind of blew my mind. The other day. So I highly suggest watching it if you are interested at all in the concept of Project Looking Glass. That one has more of like a Q spin to it, and if you don't follow Q or you're not really interested in Q, there might be a few things in there that kind of will go kind of over your head because they're not, you know, they're kind of Q specific, like some of the graphics he uses or some of the references he makes, he doesn't really make the connection or he doesn't really explain them. So, but if you ever have any questions, feel free to ask me. I had a bunch of people reach out to me about the CBD. I think I got back to everybody but one person. I noticed one person that I forgot to get back to like right before I went live. So if you are that one person, I will get back to you, and I will tell you what that CBD is. And then there was one last thing before we all get into the chat, but I just wanted to mention this. This is just something that I came across, and I think it is important for us to know. It was just, I don't even know if it was an article, but it was talking about how when you're dating checks and other important documents, don't put 20. Now that it is the year 2020, don't just put 1/7/20 because somebody can put 2021 on the end of that and whatever. So I thought I'd share that because that was a pretty useful piece of information. I was like, oh, that's good to know. It's good thinking. Hi guys. What have I missed? Did Iran just fire missiles at bases in Iraq? I have no idea. I don't even have a way to check that right now. Anybody know? The Vatican literally is the synagogue of Satan. Yeah, I believe at some point it got just completely infiltrated, and probably a very, very long time ago. I'm not talking about, you know, anything recent. Sometime a long, long time ago, it got infiltrated, and I think it's just been completely taken over at this point. Yes, missiles have been fired. Okay. Thank you very much. Iran fires rockets at Sunni and Kurd base. They flew right over Baghuz U.S. base. Iran signaled no escalation. State TV reporting. Thanks, you guys. Tens of missiles. Mark, I watch the same things you do. It's, you know, we're all getting pretty good at finding all this stuff, finding all of this information. All the people that I share information with, we're all like, oh, did you see this? Yes, I did. Did you see this? Yes, I did. Like every once in a while, I'll be like, oh no, I didn't see that one. But I think we're all kind of getting better at finding the information. No rain for my hair today. I curled my hair. Good old mom. Good old mom telling me I look like I got caught in a rainstorm. Mothers are great for that kind of thing. Tesla never looked better. Thank you. Yes, I think he looks quite handsome. Multiple missiles, multiple bases. Interesting, okay. It's written in the Bible, the seat sits on a seven-headed beast, 7 hills the Vatican sits on. Ooh. Could be the clowns in action trying to start a war. Yeah, I believe possibly they are desperate to pull us into a war. But I have faith, I do have faith in our president that he is going to outsmart them all. Oh, gotcha, Leo, thanks. What is up with Epstein estate? Heard he signed all his fortune to someone right before he was killed. How exactly does that fly with all the lawsuits? Oh, I don't know, I hadn't heard that. Tesla was a looker. Yes, he was quite handsome, I think. Do I know Yuri Bezmenov? Sorry, it went by quickly. I do not, I don't think. Tesla stock never looked better. Oh, what was that in the other day? It might have been in that video that I linked below about the Project Looking Glass. Shoot, I wish I could remember, where it's talking about one of the ways that they bury information on things is to have something come out that's big that has the same name. For example, Tesla. If you Google Tesla, what's going to come up? The car company. If you Google Foo Fighters, what's going to come up? The band. If you Google, you know, whatever. In fact, I noticed after Q came out, like a year after Q came out, all these things started coming out being named Q. They were having the first transgender voice or non-gender specific voice for like a Siri kind of thing, or Siri kind of thing, and it was going to be called Q. And there were a bunch of other things, I can't remember what they are now, but like all these things that they were naming Q suddenly, and it was like they were trying to bury it when you search for Q, that you wouldn't find QAnon. But yeah, that's something that Elon Musk is one that I will say I cannot put my finger on I can't get a grasp of what he is. What is he? Is he good? Is he bad? Is he gray hat? Like what? I don't know. I really couldn't tell you. Look up Yuri Bezmenov. I promise you'll find it immensely interesting. Yuri, that's not the guy that could bend spoons, right? That was URI, right? That's the only Yuri I know of. Before his death, Tesla had visions of a bird with a red eye, and he loved it like he would have loved a woman and regretted not having a love, he wrote. Sad ending. Aw, that is very, very sad. And you guys all know the connection between Tesla. Oh yeah, we have talked about that. Tesla and Trump. That John Trump, Trump's uncle, was the guy that got the Tesla papers. and, you know, possibly a glance into all of these technologies that would absolutely change humanity. So that's very interesting. And that's what makes me just very, I mean, I'm open-minded to that kind of those technologies and the, you know, Project Looking Glass technologies and all of these things that sound too crazy to be true. But once you start looking into them and hearing people talk about how they work and things like that, it doesn't seem so far-fetched anymore. Musk is the only famous rich person saying we're going to not have enough people in the future instead of overrunning the earth. Elon Musk's grandfather was the head of a technocratic society in Canada. I would say not so good. Yeah, but you know, like JFK's father or entire family was mafia, wasn't it? And then when he got into office, I believe part of the reason that they killed him, or the reason that they killed him, is that they thought they were going to have one of their own mafia guys in place that they could, you know, puppeteer, and he wanted to be a good guy. He wanted to do good things, and so they could not allow that. But it just proves that just because somebody's parents are despicable doesn't mean that you necessarily turn out despicable. I mean, even Ronan Farrow, who we were talking about earlier, it's interesting to me because, you know, he is the son of Mia Farrow and what's that guy's name? Somebody's gonna get it. Somebody can help me. Anyway, the father was like famous for ending up marrying the daughter they adopted. Like, that doesn't seem suspicious, right? He seems like almost the poster child for some of these, I don't even want to say the word, but it starts with a P. Woody Allen, thank you. Woody Allen. He married his daughter, basically, the adopted daughter of Mia Farrow, and that he knew from when she was a child. And it's super gross. But anyway, now you've got Ronan Farrow, and he appears to be doing some really important work to expose specifically these high-powered people that get away with this kind of stuff. So possibly you can create, I mean, listen, when you go through something, even if it is a terrible childhood, you still have the choice to, you still reach that fork in the road. Am I going to do exactly this and just be like, well, I had this happen to me in my life? Or are you going to say, no, I am going to do the exact opposite of that because of what I went through? So, am I preaching? That's kind of what I do. Okay, now you talk. He looks like Frank Sinatra. Who, Nicola? Oh, Ronan Farrow? Is that who you mean? He's very good looking. He looks a lot like his mom, to be honest. That's what I thought when I looked at him. Why do some people have convictions and others just don't? I don't know. That's a good question, but there could be a lot of reasons. You know, I guess it could depend on things that didn't even happen in this lifetime. We could have been born with a lot of things. I know a lot of people who, you know, siblings that grew up in the same house that have completely different personalities. They had the same mother and father, the same house, the same upbringing. They did the same things in their childhood, yet they are completely different human beings. And so I do believe when you look at the nature versus nurture, that there is both. I do think that to some extent, we are born with certain personality traits. Now, my own personal belief, which who knows, is that before we get here, we choose our plight. We choose what we're going to be going through. And so I think I've even made this reference on this before, is that like you can either choose, like in college, you can choose to take a lot of courses and make your year really hard and challenging, but get a lot out of the way, or you can, you know, take nothing classes, pottery, and just be like, I don't want to deal with it right now. Or you could get to the point where you have, you know, met a lot of challenges and now you can have some smooth sailing. Nobody really knows where anybody is at in their karmic journey just by looking at their life, because I believe we've got many lifetimes to live out lots of karma. And so some people that might look like they've got really easy lives, there's just no reason for jealousy, in my opinion. We've all got to go through everything there is, or we've all got to be faced with a certain amount of challenges. And if you get through those challenges better than others, then hey, you deserve to have better things or whatever. But yeah. Thank you, Maya. Wait, I gotta find, somebody said something about Bugs Bunny. Are you talking about Bugs Bunny, or is there somebody in here named Bugs Bunny? Wait, Tesla was a virgin? Is that real? Is that fake news? Did he have any kids? No. How would anyone know that? He didn't have a reality show on Bravo back then. People kept things like that private. Speaking of, I guess, Michelle Williams' speech on the Golden Globes, where she is talking about how she never would have won this sparkly award if she had not killed her baby while she stands there visibly pregnant. I just think, first of all, I'm not a judgmental person, and I also will admit that that I had changed my opinion on abortion a lot within the last couple of years. But even still, like, there probably would have been a time in my life that I never did get one, but I probably would have if something would have happened to me. So I don't judge anybody for having to go or going through that experience. I don't like it. I wouldn't do it myself, but I'm not judging people. But there's a big difference between doing that and being faced with that and making that decision and then like celebrating it, or saying that a child is less important than an award, or that, I don't know, I just thought that was really sick. I don't like that at all. And her dress was really ugly too. So there's that. Oh, and somebody pointed out, I made a joke about her dress, and somebody pointed out, they commented back to me, that her dress was the dress looked exactly like the orange sheets from Epstein's cell. They're like, did she make her dress out of the sheets from Epstein's cell? It's very funny. Rand, I have seen that before, but no, it doesn't mean anything to me. I might have even Googled that, because I think I've been asked about that before, but I don't know what that is. Ricky, was Trump bumping for fans? I don't know about that, because I think if you're just looking for more fans, you just kiss up, you just do the easy thing and kiss up to what everybody else, all the little just go and say what everyone else is saying, and the people are like, oh yeah, so brave, and you'll probably get more people, because there are probably more of those people out there than there are. Actually, I don't know. Thank you so much. Yuri Bezmenov, ex-Soviet propaganda head, defected to U.S., demoralization of America, or something similar. Also, love letter to America, enough to get you started if interested. Thank you so much. Thank you. Interesting. Yeah, that's good to know. I'm interested in propaganda. Ever since I read that one book, The Trust Me, I'm Lying, it is very interesting. Plus, I am just like I like psychology. And at one point when I thought I was going to finish college, it had crossed my mind to actually, because psychology was my major, to actually take it into an advertising direction and do advertising. And so I'm interested to see now the absolute like evil behind it. Like, it's obviously a tool that can be used for good or bad, but it just seems to be used for bad more often. Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I know that sounds familiar. It might be one of those things where if you said a little bit more, I'd be like, oh yeah, doy. Trump has the majority. I do think he has the majority as far as the people that are going to vote for him, for sure. But, you know, there are also lots of people around the world and lots of people under the age of 18 that also, you know, make up fans or would get you more followers on Twitter if that's what you were trying to go for. I almost feel the madness Gervais was saying made it almost okay and turned it into a joke in general. I don't know. I feel like no matter what, it was a moment for a lot of people to, you know, and if a lot of people just sat there, you know, mouth breathing and drooling on themselves while they watch it and they're just like, okay, whatever. It planted seeds. And, you know, one of the things that I think I will never get tired of seeing, and we should see it over and over and over again, is not treating these celebrities like they are royalty and that they are untouchable. And I liked seeing them get made fun of in a way that wasn't like, oh, see you after, we'll go party. It was like, he meant it. And they looked stupid. And they especially looked stupid because of their reactions. If they would have laughed it off, and believe me, I took note of who in that audience was laughing and who looked angry. And that did something to me, in my opinion, of them. Interesting. There was also something floating around. You know, we know about Hollywood Anon, and there are some speculations into who that is. And then there was something else that was floating around recently, but I saw it a while ago too. It's been out there for a while. But I think people were trying to say that this was Ricky Gervais, possibly. It was another Hollywood Anon that basically came out and said, Q is real. Hollywood knows it's real. They are desperate to keep it under wraps. We are all guilty of things, some worse than others, myself included, blah, 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 blah. You know, that was said anonymously on one of the, you know, either 4chan or 8chan, so who knows if it was real or not, but you would have to imagine that there are, you know, they can't all be bad. And in fact, I have had a talk with a girl who is in Hollywood and says that there is actually, you know, kind of a secret group of the patriots that are, you know, within Hollywood. They have to keep it a secret. They can't be outward about, you know, not being despicable humans because they will get kicked out of the club, but they will meet in secret and they are trying to steer Hollywood in a positive direction. So, which book or books do you recommend? Oh gosh. Secret History of the World, The Raw Material, what else? Oh, that one that I just mentioned, Trust Me, I'm Lying, is a really good one. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. My bookcase is in the other room. What's the one by Jason Quitt? I really liked that. There was a really good book about DMT too that I liked. Gosh, you know what? On my old Instagram, I used to have not the stories that go away, but those little circles that don't go away. I used to have, every time I was reading a book, I would put it in there. And so people could like ask me questions or get book recommendations. I am gonna put that on my Instagram. So I know not everybody is on Instagram, but I'm gonna start doing that because I do get asked a lot what books I recommend or what books I'm reading. And that's a good way for me to share that in a place that it will just stay there and anybody can go and look at it. Jason Quitt, Forbidden Knowledge. Thank you. Yeah, that one was really good. I liked some of the, it was a really short book, but I liked some of the very complex things explained very simplistically. That works for me. And there were just a few moments I remember when reading that book where I was like, I had to like put the book down and just be like, absorb what I had just read, and it really touched me. So that's why it was one of those things that, you know, one of the books that came to mind. But I've got a lot of book recommendations. I haven't been reading so much lately, but the last couple years I've read, I don't even know. I think I told you guys, I did the math on what, or wasn't really hard math, but I looked at what my YouTube had made as far as like advertising or whatever, what I had made on my YouTube, and it was like way less than what I had spent on Amazon in books that year. So, but whatever, we're not here for money. It was just funny to me because I probably should just get a library card, but I like keeping books. There's a part of me that's just like, I like to have them on my, I've got a big bookcase in my living room. I like to have them out there when people are over. Like even my dad was just over and he was going through my books and he was like, oh, this one looks really interesting. And he took it and then he sat down. He's like, where did you get this from? I was like, you? And he's like, oh yeah. And then he flipped the page and there were literally notes in his handwriting in that book. But, you know, so you can share knowledge. Like if you read a book, if you read a book, you buy a book, you don't like it, give it away, give it to somebody else. Go put it in one of those neighborhood library things or like donate it, whatever. But when you find something that you like, you want to give it to people. You want to share it with them and get it back and share it with somebody else. You want to reread it. And you want to be reminded. Every time I look at my bookcase, I am reminded of some of the things that I've learned from those. And I'll be like, oh yeah, I totally forgot, especially since I did so much reading really rapidly in a short period of time. DMT, the spirit molecule. Thank you. Yep, that was the one. That was really interesting. I'm interested. It's not so much not just like the DMT portion of it, but I was really interested in reading more about the pineal gland and, you know, some of those more basic science stuffs that I don't know or get because I have a public education. Yeah. Get a bookcase without a tree growing in the middle. You can put more books in it, although the tree is cool. So you've seen that. It's cool. That wasn't my idea, but it kind of reminds me of like the late 90s when everybody was going for that Japanese motif. Thank you. Art of Thinking Clearly by Rolf Dobelli. Interesting. How do we uncrust our pineal gland? The only thing I've really ever heard, well, first of all, keep away from fluoride. Obviously that's easy to do when it comes to toothpaste, but it's also in our water. So if you can, find something to filter it out of your water, not only to drink, but also when you're bathing. But I've also heard that turmeric, I always put the emphasis on the wrong syllable, but that's what happens when everything you've learned by reading and had no human interaction with anybody. What was I saying the other day that everybody was like, no, it's not, I was saying Reuters when it's Reuters. That one I actually knew, but just biffed it. But yeah, I don't pronounce things. I can't pronounce things. Liquid iodine, is that for the pineal gland? That's interesting. Okay, interesting. I'll have to look into that. It's in Prozac and some antibiotics too. Interesting, I didn't know that. Fluoride is naturally occurring in tea. Highest natural concentration we consume, I believe. No, I love tea. Is it in all teas, like black tea and green tea? That's a bummer. She said biffed it. Who are the people in Hollywood who are not involved in this? Who are the good guys in Hollywood? Unfortunately, at this point, there is no way to know whether someone is good or bad. I don't think. You know, we can sit here, we can speculate, and we can have our own ideas or opinions of things and people that look guilty as sin, but until they've had, you know, a fair trial, we really don't know. There are obviously instances in the world where people appear guilty when they're not. So we don't know. And I don't know who is good. But I would say that if they don't appear to be spooked by our commander-in-chief, then that's a pretty good sign. that they're at least not as dirty as some of the others. Let's Play Doctor and Dead Doctors Don't Lie by J.D. Wallach. Thank you. Vince Vaughn, are you saying he's a good one or a bad one? Yep, that's a Tesla painting. Keanu Reeves, end of list. Tim Allen, Roseanne Barr, Chuck Woolery are good people. They get attacked. Yeah. You know who I think Hollywood Anon is, and I'm not the only person that thinks this, a lot of people do, is Robert Downey Jr. But I think even Hollywood Anon has talked about how they themselves have done bad things too. So maybe there aren't a lot of people that are entirely good. But also, you know, there's a lot they can get you to do, especially if you've got kids. You know, we always want to do the right thing, and like, you know, who wants to do the right thing? Like, well, raise your hand. Okay, all of us raise our hand. Who would do the right thing even if we were being threatened? Yeah, probably most of us. Now, who would do the right thing if somebody was threatening your children for doing the right thing? That's a really hard one. So it's important to understand that, like, you know, even good people can get them to do really bad things. And probably if you're a very bad person and you want to ensure that your way of life is not going to be threatened, you would especially target the people that are the cleanest, I think. You're from India. Awesome. Thank you for being here. That's really, really cool. I thought the nylon tea bags were the bad things and not all tea leaves. Yes, please get to the bottom of this for me because I drink a lot of tea. What about James Woods? Jenna Jameson is an anon on the boards from time to time. Jenna Jameson actually wrote me a really sweet message one time. It was actually after I posted that picture in a MAGA hat, and I think somebody wrote to her and like asked her to, like, out of pity for me, was like, listen, this girl's going through a really tough time right now. People are jumping on her hard. And she ended up private messaging me, just showing support and being really sweet, and it was very cool of her. So I have a high opinion of her, and I like a lot of the things that she talks about in tweets. Clint Eastwood is another good one. Yeah. It's hard, you know? At one point I would have said Bill Cosby. That was one that really, really hit me hard when those allegations came out about him, or when, you know, when we found out. Some people I don't care, but like, there are a few people that really, really upset me when I found out that they did not good things. Bill Cosby was one of them. Michael Jackson, I don't know what I believe yet about him. I don't know if that makes me naive, but especially hearing, you know, especially knowing that documentary came from Oprah Winfrey, and now looking more into what's in her closet. I kind of just feel like he was more of a pawn. I feel like he was a very easy target, and definitely a victim of this. That is clear from the time he was a very small child. None of us, I think, can look at, I know none of us can look at Michael Jackson's life and have even a percentage of an understanding of what it was like for him. But I honestly just don't believe that he was capable of that. And I don't see the people that are coming out accusing him, I don't see a lot of, I see a lot of red flags there. So I don't know. But if he did, then he's awful. Then he's terrible. Robert Downey Jr. I know. When I think back about, what was that movie called? Don't make me say that thing that you just said. Thunder. With Robert Downey Jr. and Jack Black. Things. Tropic Thunder. Was so funny. And if you think about if they tried to make that movie today, people would be furious. And that wasn't even that long ago. How long ago did Tropic Thunder came out? That was like the last comedy, I think. That was the last comedy before they just came and ruined everything. Thank you. Yep, Tropic Thunder. It's so funny. Oh my God. Due Date is really good too with him. I had the weirdest Mandela effect I think, the other day. I was actually looking up Charlize Theron's age because she looks the same exact that she looked 20 years ago. So I was looking that up, and then I remembered, I was looking up Devil's Advocate, that movie that she was in. It was like one of her first big movies, or maybe her first big movie, where she plays Keanu Reeves' wife in that movie. And I specifically remember her being just stunningly beautiful. I remember watching that movie and being like, that is the most perfect woman I've ever seen in my life. But I remember specifically she had a really cute, short, pixie haircut, because I remember who I went to go see it with, and I remember talking to them after that I wanted to cut my hair like that. And so the other day I went and looked up that movie, or I looked up Charlize Theron, and pictures from that movie were coming up, and she totally has like really, really curly hair down to here. And I don't get it. I don't, like, I can even picture the SEX scene where her face is changing into the other woman that that he works with. And I can specifically see her short hair. And I was like, wow, her hair is so cool. And nope, it was curly. I don't believe that was real. I believe that was different in the timeline I came from. Yeah, I've been having some glitches. My garlic mayo disappeared out of my fridge and no one else lives here. And after I left for a few days, just bought it. It's literally gone. That's so weird. Put a big smile on his birthday. Like to return it. Thank you so much. Happy birthday from Australia. Thank you so much. I met the entire cast of The Wonder Years, all wonderful people. Makes sense why they never took off. The Wonder Years? They were pretty popular. But yeah, Allie Mills was actually a Buddhist, and she practiced in like the same group that I and my mom practiced in, and she seemed like a very, very nice lady. Oh, and the dad too, the dad from The Wonder Years. He was just super likable. Well, no, I mean, like, not on that show necessarily. He was kind of a grouch, but I just felt like every time I saw him in anything, there was something about him I just really liked. I heard that ladies are going makeup free to support the troops. Are you going barefaced too? I am not. The troops want me in makeup. Believe that. Snow White and the Huntsman, her role has her taking energy and regenerating. Somewhere I read that Charlize was one of the least liked actresses. That's interesting. Well, I think since we've got, oh, there it goes. We had a very interesting number watching, but I have to pee, so I'm gonna go. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me tonight on my birthday, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday.